evening. My name is Susan Stevenson. I'm the chair of the board of the Architectural Review Board and Historic Preservation for Southampton Village. I'm calling this meeting to order. Do I have a motion to open the meeting?
I make a motion that we open this meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation on August 13th, 2018.
And I second that, because there's nobody else here, so.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The chair says aye. All right. I'd like to introduce the panel. Jeff Broadleib, Christina Redding. Mr. Coburn is not here tonight, and neither is Mr. Highsmith. We have our videographer, Charlie Styler, in the back, our counsel, Bo Robinson, and Jolie Sanchez is our recording secretary. And Zach Studenroth, our historic consultant. So I think we can get started with signs.
So the first thing is to approve the minutes.
Oh, the minutes. True. Of July 23rd,
Yes.
2018. Do I have a motion? There were a few changes, but I believe they've been incorporated
Yeah,
by
they've been
Antoinette,
incorporated.
and we've
Okay.
read them.
So I move that we accept the minutes as amended.
Second?
All,
Aye.
Jeff, aye. Chair, aye.
Aye.
Christina, aye. Motion carries. We've approved the meetings of July 23rd, 2018. Next, signs.
Approval for July 9.
No, that was an error. Sorry,
All right.
not our error.
Sorry, just note that on the record.
Okay. Thank you. Next, signs. We have one sign tonight.
We have a sign for Meeting House Medical Practice. Is anyone here to represent?
Great. Let me see.
Thank you for explaining it so clearly.
Sure.
So
It's a very simple change.
Oh
All
my
we're doing
good-
is changing our logo.
I see that, and making it part of Stony Brook. Is that
Correct. Yes.
Charlie, can you get this? Good. Does anyone have any objections? Anyone from the public? Motion to approve
I make a
the,
motion that we approve the sign for Meeting House Medical Practice on Hampton Road.
Jeff?
I second.
Aye.
Christina says aye.
Aye.
Jeff votes aye. Chair votes aye. The motion carries. It's approved. Good luck with your
Great.
signage.
Thanks very much.
Okay, that concludes the sign portion of our meeting. Sorry, we're having, since there are so few of us, there are some secretarial duties that take a little bit more
So
time.
our next item is driveway gates non-historic. Marissa Rose Van Brockhurst. Bockhurst.
Do you have affidavits of posting and
Yes,
mailing?
Eric Woodward, architect on the project, affidavit of posting and affidavit.
Have you seen this?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's in your packet. Those are,
You can actually put them down on the table.
okay,
There you go. And then line them up so Charlie can see them.
So there's just one here.
that's existing, what's there now, and this is proposed. Okay.
Have these or do they need to be stamped in?
Do you have lighting on the place?
Yes.
Have you provided us with the,
I have a spec here on the lighting.
is it in the file?
Oh, you have
I'm
it.
not sure if it was submitted to the file or not.
I didn't see it, but that doesn't mean it wasn't submitted to the
It's
file.
a side-mounted, on the side of the wooden posts. It's a lantern on each of the posts on the side.
And the wattage? We're concerned about not
I
having.
believe it's a 60. I gave away all my copies to you, now I know.
Okay, I don't think,
Generally, we've been at 25, I'm not sure.
25.
Oh, okay. Well, I would be, whatever's,
But this is not indicated anywhere on these plans.
yes, it is. It's indicated in a bubble next to the number 3. I can point to it here.
Yes.
Hinkley Lighting, Series 2632.
But does it show the wattage?
It doesn't on there, no.
So
So we can
can you
specify.
write it in?
We can specify whatever wattage you would say is standard.
Well, it has been our practice that it's 25 watts is the
Okay.
maximum that we'll allow.
Okay.
So maybe you could, on both, 2 sets of plans, he has to write it in?
Well, you should wait until you have rendered your decision, which would include
Okay.
the,
Well, I don't think we have
restriction on the
I don't
wattage.
think we'll be spending a huge amount of time rendering a decision. Do you have any objections, Christina, to these gates?
No.
None of us have any objections to your
Okay.
gates.
Well, thank
But we
you.
do have to have a confirmation.
so you approve the plan, subject
So-
to maximum wattage of 25 watts.
Okay, motion to approve
Maximum illumination of 25 watts.
the dates for the application of Marissa Rose Van Bockhurst at 68 Pheasant Lane.
I make a motion that we approve these gates for Melissa Rose Van Bockhurst on Pheasant Lane.
Subject
With-
to the maximum illumination of 25 watts.
Okay,
Per fixture.
exactly.
Do I have a second, Jeff?
Second.
Aye.
Christina votes aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries with the addition, you have to write still on this plan.
Did you poll the audience?
No, it didn't. Is there anyone from the audience who has anything to say about this application? No? Sorry. So have you changed the plans? Have
Oh, I
written
thought you
on-
wanted me to do it on your copy.
Yes, I do need
Yours
this.
has been stamped in.
Yes, you're right. Can you go out in the hall and do that and bring it back to us? Thank you. So we can move ahead. Let's just make sure we have all the pieces of paper. I'm gonna either have to come on Wednesday and sign it. So we'll hold this afternoon.
Oh, we're waiting for him.
Yes, we can go ahead.
Okay, just give it.
Okay. So many pieces of paper. Silly.
Are you going to wait for him?
No.
Okay, so we don't have any driveway gates historic. If we're going on to public hearings, non-historic.
The first is Christopher and Jean Lynch, which is referred to the Board of Appeals and pending decision. The second is Alexis
We
and,
have a letter in our file about Moses, for the application for Alexis and Oliver Moses from John Bennett dated August 10th,
oh,
asking us to adjourn until August 27th, respectfully requesting that they adjourn until August 27th, since they've hired a landscape architect and are preparing their plan.
oh, great. So we have a motion to approve the applicant's request to adjourn until our next meeting.
Jeff?
I'm so moved, you can say.
So moved.
And Christina,
Thank you.
are you seconding it?
I second.
Okay, Jeff?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Christina?
Aye. The
Next,
next application is Long Island Residential, Inc. on Pelham Street. This one is done, huh? Did we go back?
Did he bring it back? Yeah, I didn't see him bring it back, that's all. So you've changed your plans, I see.
We have changed our plans.
Thank you.
Okay, so, based on the concerns of the board, the garage doors were moved to the side of the house, to the left side of the house.
Could I just ask you a question? I'm sorry to interrupt. Are these plans the same as the ones
I
dated?
think the only difference is I'm showing brick on the chimney on the ones in your hand that was just given to you,
Okay,
as opposed to the stucco.
okay, let's,
Oh, I see.
okay, thank you.
So mine is dated August 1st.
Yes, and so the chimney on the new plans shows brick, of which
Yeah.
there are 3 copies. Or 2 copies? Do you have a copy?
Another one.
Okay.
Here, Jeff, let's put the old, let's put the not okay one in there.
One is dated, and this is a copy.
Is that the stamped one?
Yeah, this is the same one.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, sorry, it's a lot of pieces.
All right, so we redesigned the proportions of the house to be able to get a side entry garage. And that, I believe, was one of the main concerns of the board. The other concern, or not objection, but the concern was the stucco we had proposed on the chimney. We did change that to brick.
That's the driveway. That's the one side, right?
And it's asphalt shingles on the roof?
We're proposing asphalt, yeah, a architectural 30-year dimensional shingle. Truckable.
And the color of the facade is white?
So the siding's going to be white, white on white.
Including the board and batten and the,
Yeah, the board and batten and the clapboard siding will be white.
you're painting the cedars white? Or is it
We
real
would paint
cedar?
it white, yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
The chimney is brick, what color?
Either beige or white. Red brick. White.
Or possibly, we can even do like a gray blend, sort of tie the roof in with the siding.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said we could also do a gray, like a gray blend on the brick that would tie sort of the dark roof in with the white siding.
I think...
I think we're more into the
Natural brick.
natural brick or brick that's
And you're talking about
has
like
some white on it, but I don't know what the Dutch something, what is that called?
a red brick?
A red brick
They
that's,
call it Dutch blend, but that's just a red common brick, isn't it?
but sometimes there's a white wash on
Whitewash,
some,
well, it is, yeah, it
on
is.
some of it.
That's sort of antiqued.
Yeah, we could do a distressed antique,
Distressed.
Don't you
absolutely.
think that would
Tone it
be
down.
better?
It's a pretty big brick column.
It is.
So it doesn't actually say on this what brick there is that correct? On your plan, does
It
it?
does, no, I don't indicate the
Notate
column
that?
of the brick. no.
I would say other than that, I do not have an objection.
No.
Christina?
Thank you for making the changes that you
Welcome. Welcome.
did a good job.
We knew we weren't winning the arguments.
After 5 times.
You tried, I have to say. I think it's so much nicer, though. I hope you do,
It's
too.
much more balanced.
Everything's depending, yeah.
In the application, I noticed in the building department, you crossed out the demolition of the garage.
No, that's gonna, we have a,
Okay, no, it was actually crossed out, so I was
we
wondering...
have a demo on the application.
Right, no, but I'm saying, somewhere along
Oh,
the
you know,
line, somebody struck it
She
out.
made me do 2 different applications.
Okay.
So one for the garage and one for the main house. Diane,
So is there a way to notate on this plan the brick? I wish I knew the really technical term.
There-
Just
Glengarry has as a manufacturer, they have several different styles. You'd have to indicate the style, or if Mr. Kuhn has it, just simply have him initial and or note it on the plans and initial it that it'll be one of
Antique white
two.
brick.
Right.
Yeah,
I
can
think they're
just
talking about
indicate antique
Danish
white.
blend. They weren't talking about a red brick. Or if you wanted to have some kind of a white
An
highlighted
antique,
brick.
there's an antique Danish
Yeah,
blend.
all right. So put that on the plans and initial it.
Antique Danish blend.
Okay.
Who's got the stamp? Are any of this stamp? Do you have the
Or
stamp?
maybe just a
Would you
Danish
stamp?
blend.
I think it's just referred to as a Danish blend, whatever.
Antique, white antique Danish blend.
Okay, so we're going to need to,
They could send you a letter too if you want.
no, we need it actually notated on the plan so that when the building
You need
department,
the original plan. He can do that tonight. Just hand him the original plans back. He can go in the hallway and
only
then
two
come
of
back.
these that you notate. So I'm going to hand these back, and we could go ahead,
Go ahead with your decision and then confirm it when
okay,
it comes.
with the motion to approve your design with the stipulation that we amend the plans. Oh, God, just no one can reach anything, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
So can you bring this back? But
Can we make a motion?
yes,
I make a motion that we approve the application of Long Island Residential Inc. on Pelham Street with the correction on the plan referring to the brick.
Can we name either or on the plan, two bricks, maybe a white Danish blend or just a plain Danish blend? You have an objection with that?
sure, go ahead,
Okay.
with amendment. Is there a second?
White or plain Danish.
Second.
White Danish blend or just Danish blend?
Got it, okay.
For Danish, white Danish blend. So you seconded it?
Yes.
Okay, Christina?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chair votes aye too. Congratulations.
Thank you, ladies and
to the
gentlemen.
Thank
But
you.
can you do that in the
I'm gonna do it in the hallway,
Thank you.
Have a good evening, thanks.
Next
luck.
up,
Were there any objections from the, there was no. No one could sit it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is a different order?
our next application is Emmanuel Santomoro on Potato Field Lane. Is the applicant present?
No, he is not. I am John DiStefano.
Okay.
I am representing, let's see. Sorry, I'm late.
Are those the affidavits of posting and mailing?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, sir. It's a complicated plan. There's no small plans, huh?
There was a small plan in there with a, I
there
think
small
with the
plans in there?
change circled.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure. We don't need those in there.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good job.
He's coming before you at this time to ask for your approval for a front porch. We asked for this in hindsight, really, but they'd like to be able to cut back on the amount of sunlight which comes down through the downstairs windows
What's the covered porch addition?
into the house itself.
Not today, right?
Pardon me?
Not today.
No.
Yes.
So I didn't know if there's anything else that you needed at this point, or...
We need to put a plan down so the,
Have an extra one?
is there, okay, is this the initial plan? This one.
All right.
Okay. Can Charlie get it? So the porch,
I don't really see which plan.
Ma'am?
I'm looking for the plan that has it.
Why don't you put this down there as well?
Want the bigger one?
Yeah, okay.
here's the porch. And
It's the plan. How about the elevation?
good luck. All right, here it is. So it goes across the whole front of the facade, is that correct?
Of the main section of the
Yeah.
house, not the garage, just the living space.
And what are the dimensions? How far does it, these plans are moving. How far does it, oh, maybe this one does, never mind. 6 feet, I'm answering no question. Okay.
The building permit.
There's no building permit? Do you have any,
It's 354
No,
square
I think it
feet.
gives more dimension to the
Building
facade of the
permit
house.
says 354 square feet.
and the roof is of the porch?
Asphalt, 3-tab, asphalt architectural, the same that is on the house now.
Okay,
And John, the material for the roof?
that's what I just asked.
Oh, I'm sorry. You did?
It's asphalt architectural shingle, the same as the guy is on the house now.
That's on the roof, you said?
Correct.
Is there anyone from the public? There's someone. Have you presented, do you have anything more to say?
Pardon me?
Do you have anything more to say about your plan?
No?
Okay, there's someone from the public who wants to speak.
Okay.
Please step forward, sir.
Hello, my name's John Laffey. I'm 162 Potato Field Lane, and I pass by this house every day. And generally, I think that's a great idea to do a front porch on it. It certainly needs it. But I would request, is it possible I could raise the pitch up a bit further to within, say, shingle course of the windows? It's a little flat. If we're going to do it, they should raise that pitch up a little bit if possible. Second was, I don't know if I can ask this, but could you put a little bigger columns on it? Right now, they seem to be very spindly. Could you do like an 8-inch column? That might be nicer. And the only question I had was in the original application, I thought I saw the house had shutters on it. Is that still the case? Of the board's request?
I think that's right.
That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ford? I see his points, but I don't find it so objectionable, although maybe the,
I don't really.
do you think
have a
the
problem
columns
with
could be beefed up a little?
I'm not sure if it's...
We had an 8-inch column originally planned in round, and then we cut squares for 8-inch and 6-inch, and the way it laid out, with the actual squares set on the building before we put the siding on it, 8 just looked too big with a 6-foot porch.
I'm willing to take your word for it. All right, I don't have any objection to
I
the
have
plan
none.
either, sir. Do I have a motion to approve the plan?
Yes, I move that we accept the plans as submitted to Emmanuel Santamoro at 229 Potato Field Lane to amend the prior approval to add a covered front porch as submitted.
Do I hear a second, Christina?
Second.
So, to vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 3 ayes. Good luck with your project, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
There you go.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank
Good night.
you.
There's 2, right?
Our next application is
Let's get it back in the file.
Michelle Pekowski for a garage.
So those are the affidavits of posting and mailings? Yes? Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
I was told to bring them with me and hand them to you.
Are these the same as the plans that are in the file or not?
We had a problem with it not being 10 feet and 10 feet away, and then Paul Rogers changed it, so these are the newest
So is the
ones.
site plan not correct then?
I'm not
Probably.
clear what that is.
Well, yeah,
Well, yeah, because if you had a problem with the setbacks, the site plan that you, do you have a new site plan?
Yeah, he did all new
Oh,
things.
okay.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of this then.
He told me I could do this by myself, so.
well,
Who's he?
just if I may, maybe I'm missing something. Are these plans different than what the building department has?
That's what she's saying.
No, because I dealt with Ms. Greger there, and she said, you're all set. She said, just when you go, give them the
Oh,
copy.
smaller copies for us to...
Yes.
Okay, I think that's what you're saying. All right, because we're going to go off the stamped plans.
From July
And if the plans you're giving us are different, then
We have a problem.
we have to start all over again.
Yeah. Are these,
They both assured me that everything is
I
fine.
know, but that's great. But we need to be careful ourselves.
I
So on
understand.
this site plan, dated August 13th, oh, okay, here's a new site plan.
You're
Great.
taking down a one-car garage and building a two-car garage, right?
That's correct.
I like the way you say that.
Do- Are those,
This is the old site plan. That's the new site.
should be facing us, is it? Is there a site plan down there? I think, here we go.
Here we go.
Let's put that down there too. I can look at a different one.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Okay.
So now you have 10-foot setbacks. Was that the issue there? Do you know? Okay, never mind.
That's what I wanted, yes,
Okay.
10 and 10 feet on both the
Okay.
corners, yep.
And the garage is how big? Oh, good question. Okay.
I think it's under 520,
519 square feet.
That's under 520.
Well, it's a pretty straightforward garage from my perspective.
No objections from my standpoint. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's a garage, right? That's with two doors. Okay. And are they showing that, could you flip over to show, is there an elevation? Second sheet of that. That would be great.
Thank
you. That should help. Great. Now everyone can see everything. All right, I have no objection to this. Is there anyone from the public who has anything to say about this plan?
I am the neighbor and I don't have any objection.
Thank you.
Scare me.
My great neighbor.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Great. All right, motion to approve?
I move that we approve applicant Michelle Borkowski of 39 Aldrich Lane, their request to construct a two-car garage.
Do you second the motion?
Second.
Okay, Jeff?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Chair? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I take all these?
Oh, no, we need some of those for our, the stamped. I think I need those. And is that the original? Did you bring those, or let's put,
This is a stamp.
it is?
Yes.
Let's put all that stuff in there. This stamp, these were stamped. Did you stamp this one?
I didn't stamp that. That was on the table.
Thank you. We need more than one site plan stamping, or just one?
On the unstamped ones now.
Do I need more than one stamped site plan? No, I have two in my hand.
Do you have this size?
Yeah, this one's
No.
stamped. This one's
There's
stamped.
only,
Oh, there's a big one. Okay, great.
there's only one in
Is
that.
that a site plan?
These are the elevations, I think, of the garage.
site plan.
Okay,
Just
great.
stamp the plan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So moving on to our next application, we have Asimakis and Marid Gillis on Potato Field Court. Is the applicant here?
Do you have the affidavits of posting and mailing? Yes, great, thank you. This is complicated in a small plan? I hope so. Because they're adding on.
Do you have small plans for us?
We just want the elevation.
Yeah.
This is pretty much jammed on here. No, this is standard. Is this not? Any date? Oh, yes, it is. It's just, I asked about the they've gone like, what happens?
Site plans?
Is that the same?
We have, this is just bigger ones of what we have.
Senator, do you want to see the site plan? Okay.
6 of them.
Is there a problem? Some back.
We just don't need all that.
We have some extra ones if you
Keep your
care.
hand on
If you care to follow along.
Figured everybody would.
You can get those back. We don't need 500 of them. Because there are only 3 of us.
Thanks.
Are these stamped in? Yeah. This is too bad, but then we're changing it.
A lot of paper.
A lot of paper.
It's all existing, it's hard to tell, but on the plans.
Yeah.
This, see,
Okay, ready?
Okay, yep.
Okay. I'm Regina Brigden. I'm the agent here to represent the homeowners. I don't think they're in the audience. Didn't expect anyone to come at me. We have a addition over a existing single-family dwelling, typical ranch, with a 2-car garage at 5 Potato Field Court in the village. As you can see, I gave you site plans. I also gave you renditions, and I gave you full sets of the plans, not just the elevations, so you can see the interior and exterior. There also is a basement that will be finished with egress. There is also a swimming pool, a new patio, and there are some rear decks as well. On the front entry, there's a copper roof. The rest of the dwelling in the 2-story addition is roofed with architectural 30-year shingles in a pewter gray. If anyone would like to see copies of what the house looks like right now, I have photos.
Yeah.
that'd be good.
Okay, I'll pass it around. You can see
Well, we'll
it's...
put it on the table, this way
Sure.
everybody can see. Charlie can pick it up.
I can go through it, but this is the front. So that's the front of the house. It's a typical white clapboard side, vinyl sided, kind of ugly home. So we are improving the neighborhood. Just a little bit about the neighborhood. It's in a cul-de-sac. This house is actually the house at the end of the cul-de-sac as you're facing and driving into the court. You could see that it doesn't represent the rest of the neighborhood really properly. The rest of the houses in the area, they're all different, actually. Some are contemporary, some are traditional. They're all different sizes. They're 2 and 1 story.
I'm saying, I'm sorry for interrupting you. That is a development
It's a development.
of very similar houses that were all built at the same time, and they were all essentially ranch houses with perhaps a story and a half.
Right.
So I think characterizing it as all different is a bit of an overstatement, so let's...
Yeah, I realize it was a spec house development.
I realize it's from your perspective.
But as you drive out the lane, you'll see different kinds of houses, and they're all completely different, which is kind of unusual and sort of nice in a neighborhood like this. But the point I'm trying to make is we're improving what's there to make it a little more Southampton friendly and a little more architecturally pleasing to the eye, as well as obviously increasing the footprint and the square footage. It's a small cantilevered addition over the 1-story dwelling. The pool's in the back. There are also other swimming pools. Almost every house in the neighborhood has a swimming pool, an in-ground swimming pool. You can't see the backyard from the street. The entire property is actually screened with hedges right now, large hedges, actually 30 feet or so tall. And the hedgerow is complemented in the back by some evergreens, different varieties, cryptomeria, butterfly bush. There's a lot of little different vegetation in there that will remain. Obviously, the swimming pool would be pool code compliant for fencing. They will be replacing the fencing. Okay, back to the colors.
How much square footage are you adding? Are you doubling the size of this house?
It's not double. It is about 2,000 square feet, and I don't have the application.
We do.
It would take me a couple minutes to go through it. It's not an act. It's not a.
3,062 square feet.
That's with the basement finish.
That's
I
what
believe,
you will
yeah.
have at the end. And what
Right,
is the
at
house
the end.
presently?
The house right now is about 2,600 square feet.
So that's double in my head.
But it actually was designed according to Southampton Village zoning requirements and setbacks. So it does meet all the setbacks. Okay, if you want to go through some of the colors, you can see there's a color swatch on the table. There's an asphalt gray shingle roof in pewter gray. It's either going to be gaff or timberline. I'm not sure where they're going to get the distribution from. The siding will be a 5-inch Cedar Perfection shingle, and it will be stained gray, Plymouth gray. And the windows are white, Anderson, and they complement the windows that are already there that are not mullioned. And I don't think I have, there's some details on the sizes, but most of them are double hung. There's a square window on the north side, but they're all very traditional in design. The trim is AZAC stained white, a frost white Benjamin Moore. Foundation would be a stone veneer, a grayish, like a field stone veneer, as well as the chimney. Does the board have any questions?
I actually don't dislike the plan, except for the enormous dark asphalt roof. which I think is brooding over this quite large house that you're introducing to the neighborhood.
Can I just, after Christina, I just want to look at the pictures just to confirm.
I could request them pick a different color that models the light gray with the dark gray a little bit better.
What happened to shingles? They've gone by the wayside, you know, we really...
Wood?
Yeah.
You want me to suggest wood?
I mean, from over
could
here, you can
suggest.
see that there is a kind of brooding, dark...
Radiating heat.
Yeah.
Roof.
Uninterrupted, really, except for one gable. These are minor.
So let me share with you my concerns, Gina.
Sure.
That
To be arrested. I think that's a problem.
that I have no questions with the size of the house in as much as it fits the zoning code requirements. However, I do, from a design standpoint and an architectural standpoint, have an issue with the way it presents as being rather massive and rather square. And I grant you this is a rendering that's
Simple.
you know, it's basic, but it presents as a very square, large, massive house on the end, I'm sorry for shaking it, on the end of a cul-de-sac. So as even giving you the benefit of the doubt of allowing your statement that the houses are varied size and design, they all are of a somewhat moderate scale, and those that have been expanded have had either a half floor added or a full floor, but the areas generally over the garage, which the board generally isn't crazy about street-facing garages, but in this neighborhood, they're commonplace because they're all essentially ranch houses or variations of ranches or expanded capes. But in your design,
It's not my design.
Okay. All right.
I didn't design it.
You are the representative, so I will not
I'm a
kill the
drafts
messenger.
person,
But architecturally, you have a full second floor above the garage. And again, not quibbling about the size of the house and the amount of square feet you can add, that's again a building department issue. But as it presents to the street, it's a big block.
Okay,
And
so
I'm sorry.
break it up with
Well,
a little more architecturally pleasing
if it were up
features.
to me, but it's not my house, then I would scale this down so that the garage or the area above the garage is subservient, and not just by a foot or two, but significantly subservient. In other words, I don't know whether that's half or two-thirds the size. I'm not going to get into the design. I don't know enough about it. But all I can tell you is that this presents as a rather large, massive house in an area that's dominated by moderate houses, albeit of perhaps different designs. So
Okay, I'm not sure what that
being
room
said,
is.
I would not approve it as presented.
Okay.
And Christina also brought up a point.
Well, I think that, again, when you're looking at this,
I agree.
the most insignificant part of the house is the front door, which normally you present the front door with
Right.
sidelights or something. I mean, the house is completely overpowered by the garage. The garage door is this part of it, and then the tall window that is obviously bringing light into the staircase. But what you've done is produce something that's the density of the house and the massing of the house is so out of proportion, I think, to what you're trying to achieve. I mean, it doesn't, I'm not being insulting, but it doesn't look like a home. It looks like an institution to me. I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize to me or Gina. Apparently, your
I didn't
architect
design
may
it.
come by and knock at your door.
And in
but-
the back, you have decks.
Right, and these
haven't-
huge, big decks in a pretty tight situation that
Yeah.
we probably will frown upon. I think,
What are those? They look like stables.
what are those?
What is this area here under the deck? Is
There's
it
an outdoor shower
Oh, I see.
under there enclosed, and pool equipment, I
Okay.
believe, is
Like
enclosed.
Oh, okay.
An outdoor shower.
Well,
I
that's okay. That could be prettier too, by the way. The second story deck, where's the site plan? It's really large.
The deck, you said?
Yes. Since this isn't,
Around the pool deck?
no. Well, it looks out on the pool if you, maybe.
That wood deck is to be removed. There's actually a deck there right now that's being taken out.
Oh, well, that deck is on the...
Lower.
The first...
That's the lower first-story deck,
The
yes.
first floor is,
I'm not sure, Susan,
Also, the
that
rendering.
given all the greenery and foliage, that's going to be an issue, although it may be on this side.
this new building is tight to the property.
The plan shows more windows than the rendering though, on the deck.
You're right, by a lot.
There's only 2 here, there's 4.
Okay, well, there's,
Someone didn't do the rendering right.
This is just...
right, but they're probably going to have to change it, given
Yeah.
how much stuff we told you just now, right?
Yes.
So I wouldn't get, it's unfortunate that that happened, and I'm glad Christine
That's
caught
fine.
it.
Any other suggestions as per the color or the design?
I think that so far we've said that the roof is hulking and perhaps needs to be a different material.
Okay.
Jeff has suggested that the garage doors, there needs to be some way to either step down
Right.
that side or do something to ameliorate the fact that that's what,
Right,
that's
the
the
garage...
distinguishing feature.
And it ties into what Christina was saying. The garage should be significantly subservient to the rest of the house.
It exists already, though. Those were the
But-
existing.
But it's the area above.
Oh.
So in other words,
Yeah,
if this
he wants
had
it to
a
kinda go.
normal gable, then
Gable?
as opposed to being a full second floor with the roof on top of it, it's just a continuation of the house.
Of just a line, yeah. I see.
So it creates this a big block. Now, if square footage is an issue to the property owner, they have space to build back. I mean, they could create a bit of an L in the back if, again, I have no quibble with the space, it fits within the zoning codes, as you say. If I'm not asking them to diminish the space that they have, but to be more creative in how, if they don't want to give up any space, it's up to them if they want to do that. But if they wanted to give up, if they wanted to maintain the same space, but eliminate the second floor over the garage, then they could expand in the back some way or another.
Well, they did expand in the back in some way or another.
But I mean, you're sort of making like an L.
So what,
It looks like that's a playroom above the garage, and maybe that roof could be not as high, so it could step down, and the dormers could be a little...
so I think what's happening, first of all, we don't have a full board, and this is
Smaller.
becoming controversial between us. So perhaps we could have having said, does anyone have any other, do you have anything else
I
to
think
say?
you've gotten our
I totally
thoughts.
understand.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think this is the first time we've seen
Right.
this, and it needs
just needs
reworking.
reworking.
Okay.
So, and I would feel better if there were more board members, because I think this is a pretty big project.
I think the front entry, you're right, needs a little
Oh,
something.
definitely. There's no
because
columns,
that's the
it's just
eyes of the
sitting there.
house. Absolutely.
So,
Definitely not my design.
are you, would you like us to adjourn this application until
Yes,
the
please.
next meeting? Or do you want to tell us?
Please adjourn to the next meeting and give the
Okay.
client some time to redraw, or the client's architect, some time to go back to the drawing board.
So I move that we accept the applicant's request for adjournment to the next meeting, and this is in regard to the application of
Asimakis?
I can't say it
and Marie Inglis at 5 Potato Court Court.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tonight, maybe...
Chair, aye. Oh, someone else has something to say.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Wait, but we're taking our vote back. Someone has something else to
On
say.
hold.
Fine, we're getting more comments.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Jeff referred to this as a development. If it is a certified subdivision, I just would like to know whether the plans for this change and the fact that there's a public hearing about it tonight have been made to all the other people in that subdivision.
With an agreement.
That's one question. The other thing is, Jeff mentioned, well, size, we don't talk about size. I'd like to point out that the zoning document, the zoning code, gives maximums, not rights. You are the only ones who can give a right. And that right has to be based on certain criteria. It's a little premature for me to go much further than this, but I'd like to point out that there is a 2010 decision by a judge in Erie County, New York State Supreme Court judge, who insisted that a newly built McMansion, or large house, in a cul-de-sac, and I think I heard you say cul-de-sac, be chopped down because it was out of harmony with the 1,500 square foot or 2,000 square foot houses that were the common look there. And I remember distinctly from that decision, but if you want it, I will get it for you. It's a 1910 decision. I've given it to you many times before, but somehow it got lost in the shuffle. Furthermore, the house that was chopped down was only 3,000 square feet. All right? So I thought you might like to know that. Would you like to have me send you that decision? I don't know if I have your emails.
You know what? We're not in the law business.
No, but I'd like to see
It is a
out of
later
curiosity.
decision than the one that is so frequently and wrongly cited to you, that Ferrara versus the Southampton ARB.
Evelyn, I'm
which was an easement.
happy to read it if you want to send
Okay,
it.
well,
All right, thank you. Now we should go back.
Okay, do we
Motion
have to
Yes.
do the whole vote again?
Yeah, motion.
Okay, I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn the public hearing related to the application that has Zimmermax and Marie Inglis at 5 Potato Field to construct a 1- and 2nd-story addition and decks.
Christina, are you seconding?
Aye, second.
On vote, Jeff?
Aye.
Christina? Aye. Aye. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
I will see you the next meeting.
Next application is Dwyer and Renfro, 315 North Main Street, construct second-floor addition and roof deck. Is that affidavit of posting and mailing? Yes? Great.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you.
Nicholas Vera, architect, 120 Mill Road, West Hampton Beach. I have some photographs of the site and aerial and surrounding property. I left them here also. You want to flip through with me?
I went to the property.
I hope you didn't go today.
No, I heard
I did.
Nugent Lane or something mud was going down there. No, fortunately, I went on just a hot day. Thanks.
So my clients are looking to expand their second floor to make their master bedroom a little bit larger and their master bath a little bit larger. It's a typical small Cape Cod that we find everywhere pretty much on Long Island, along with the village. The characteristics of the property, it's a flag lot, it's a long flag lot, it's very far off the road, surrounded by other homes that are flag lots, as you can see from our aerial. A little bit older because this house that you see, the foundation, is already been built. So if you flip through the photographs, you'll see the front of the house, which we are not changing, the rear of the house, which is the west side, which is where we're putting the addition. Property to the south of us, very well hidden through very extensive vegetation. I can't even see the house. That's the rear of the house. The next photographs, that's the house that's next door to the north that was built a few years ago. Again, the rear of the property, you can see how extensive the vegetation is around the site. including the house to the south. Again, one more photograph of the house to the north.
Yeah, those are big.
They're large.
That's cute, that little house back where you're working.
So we're trying to keep the house, modest. One of my clients is about 6'5", and he's getting tired of banging his head on the ceilings in his cape on the second floor, so that's why we're
Tell me
looking
about it.
That's why we're looking to extend the house. So we're not adding any rooms, we're just pretty much extending the master bedroom and the master bathroom on the second floor.
Adding a roof deck.
We're adding a roof deck, and the reason why I showed you these photographs is because, I know how we feel about roof decks in the village, but you can see the extensive vegetation that surrounds, especially to the south of the property. We can't see them, and they can't see us. And part of the reason I'm doing that roof deck is so that I can get a little bit of an overhang for the first floor, because their house faces due west, and we get blasted with sunshine late in the day. So I was trying to introduce a little bit of an overhang. One time they did have an awning back there, retractable awning, but it didn't work. But again, it's pretty private back there. The orange dot is the subject property.
What's this? Is this just a...
That's the foundation of the house to the north, that's an old aerial. That's the best I was able to do.
Oh, it's one of those giant
Yeah, it's one of the giant houses.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's not that big.
The roof deck thing,
So this is the subject property.
Yes.
Yes.
So in general, I'm not in favor of roof decks in a tight lot, but considering what's next door, those giant houses, they sort of don't compare to a roof deck.
Well,
Frankly, they're so much bigger.
We're crossing our fingers that the vegetation continues to grow.
Yes, you know what? I didn't think it was that bad. I thought that was kind of a cute little spot back there.
It is. It's beautiful back there. It's very private.
So I don't really have any objections to your plans,
No,
sir.
I don't either.
Do you, Jeff?
Nor do I.
Motion to approve. Is there any comments from anyone in the gallery there? Nobody? Yeah, oh. Okay, it looks like you're all systems go. Motion to approve the application of Dreyer and Renfro, 315 North Main Street.
Motion that we approve the application of Dreyer and Renfro on North Main Street.
A second.
Jeff? Oh,
Aye.
Christina?
I said aye.
Jeff? Aye. Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application is Mildred Butno Family Trust.
Is it adjourned?
I think there was a question when I was in the building department today, it was going to be adjourned.
Yeah, there was a letter apparently submitted requesting adjournment to September 24th. Do you have that in the file?
Is anybody here for this application?
No, I think it was, didn't we just have the letter?
Yeah.
Where
I
is,
think it was arrived today.
that's all right. If they're not coming, they're not coming.
I don't see anything in.
So I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to approve the applicant's request to adjourn until the meeting on September 24th regarding the application of Mildred Butnow Family Trust at 29 Ann's Lane.
Christina, do you...
Okay, it may be in the file.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I put it in there.
Yeah.
Is it just till the next
Application
meeting?
to the next meeting, September 24th.
Oh, September?
No, it's
That's not the next meeting.
but
Okay, so now
but
we
they
have to
specified-
redo this.
They specified a date.
Good, that's great.
Which is what I said. Actually, that's what I moved. I moved that we approve the applicant's request for adjournment until September 24th. The applicant being Mildred Butnow Family Trust at 29 Ann's Lane.
Great. Jeff?
Aye.
Christina? Chair, aye. Motion accepted, or approval, approved. Request approved. Next, we move into public hearings, historic.
Thomas and Meredith Joyce are still adjourned until September 10th. And our next application is Chickamauga Mapogi LLC. Thank you so much.
Is that?
That's you say correctly.
Well, so not just us.
On Captain's Neck Lane.
Is there posting and mailing, is that what that is?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Okay, Christine, wait, what is this for? We have to put this back. Or is this it? What's this thing? This is North Main Street. This needs to go back in North Main Street. Sorry, Jolie. We just did it.
Mini plan?
Please, you need like...
Also a mini landscape plan, too. And there's one in there for Zach, unless you want me to sign it. There's one in here.
Okay, I'm not
It doesn't say if you can give me that telephone, I'll walk it over to him.
Bringing the small plan?
Yes. Are there big plans that were stamped?
Yep, that is.
Or the big plans? Are the plans in the file the same as the ones you're distributing?
Yes, they are.
Okay, good.
You're welcome.
Yes. One. Okay, I'll sign it. Okay, great. Okay, this is for you too then.
So these are, the type photos with an aerial.
Do you have a set?
Yes, I already gave that.
Looks like these are the more, yeah, here we go.
You should have a set of mini building plans or floor plans and elevations, and a detached...
Zach, you have some?
I do. Thank you.
A mini landscape plan,
Yeah, I'm good.
and then the separate stapled, its existing site photos and an aerial that shows.
Here, this is all. Do you have this?
Well, yeah, I saw it earlier.
Okay, good. Me too. Go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
good evening. Melissa Dedovich, Peconic Environmental Associates. I'm here on behalf of Chickamauga Poggy LLC Residential Project, located at 500 Captain's Neck Lane. I'm here with the architect, David Bay, as well as our historic consultant, Joel Snodgrass. Just a brief background. I mean, the property is 6.6 acres, waterfront, one of the largest properties probably you'll see left in town, in the village of Southampton, sorry. Generally, what the project involves is a renovation of, in addition to, an existing single-family dwelling, a portion of which has been deemed to have historical significance. The dwelling, this would also include a new attached garage. Presently, there are 2 detached garages which are going to be demolished, as well as the existing detached pool house and swimming pool. We're going to construct a new pool house, a new swimming pool, a terrace that connects both of them, and a new tennis court. And then there's associated grading and landscaping. We hired Reese Roberts as the landscape architect of record. Just to let you know, our team has been working on this for over a year with the property owners. They understood when they bought the property that there was historic significance to it, and they're very excited about the project and working with our team to do this. So I'll have David explain.
Good evening. My name is David Bay, the architect for, I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce the name, but 500 Captain's Neck. It's called by the address name. And I thought that it might be helpful to start just reviewing the site and the site photos, which is the smaller packet that you received. So, as Melissa mentioned, the property is at 500 Captain's Neck, which is and so this aerial photograph kind of shows the house as it exists today, which is, the main structure and the 3 accessory buildings to the north.
So David, I know Bo's going to ask this. When you make references, can you specify the direction?
Yes.
North, south, east, west?
Absolutely. And so I'll try to be consistent in orienting the drawings to you. And so everything that's always closer to me would be north. So on the larger landscape plan, you see Taylor's Creek to the east,
right.
Captain's Neck to the west, northern property line, southern property line. And as you can see, the property is kind of fully hedged with 14, 15 high-foot privet on 3 sides, not including the side facing the water. The site photos, I'll try to be quick. Starting on Captain's Neck, kind of looking at the front driveway gate here. There's 2 driveway gates on Captain's Neck, but the northernmost driveway gate, you kind of get a little glimpse into the property. You really can't see the property due to the privet on Captain's Neck, but you just see a little glimpse. And what you see is unfortunately currently a garage, which is better shown in that second photograph. So yes, I think Susan, you're looking at the. So here you see a two-bay garage. Off of that looping driveway, you're standing right around here looking at the garage. The next photograph is looking dead center at the front of the house, photograph number C. And there you see kind of the main 2.5-story bay in the center, flanked by...
Into the existing site survey.
Yeah, that actually helps because it's...
Existing site survey, so then you can reorient and think of the existing photographs.
Right. And then just looping around the garage, the driveway one kind of gets a 3/4 view again of the house, and then again back out on Captain's Neck on the southern driveway, looking into the property and getting kind of a very small glimpse of the house as well. This next page of photographs shows views kind of circumnavigating the house, and the first photo is looking at this south wing of the house. The photograph after that is looking at a kind of a later 2.5-story addition here. Photograph H is kind of looking straight at the rear facade from the rear yard. Photograph I is looking at that same rear elevation but closer up. Photograph J is a 3/4 view from the northeast, and photograph K is looking at the north wing of the house. And then the final page is just a few detailed photographs of the accessory buildings, the 3 accessory buildings Misla
But those
mentioned.
in your plan, the accessory buildings are being demolished?
That's correct.
Okay.
We just want to give you a sense of what exists there today. There is one thing that I would like to point out in these photographs, photograph L on that final sheet. One sees in this one-story wing, one of the one-story wings in the front, the kind of the original double-hung windows with the small 6/6 lights, and in the middle, the newer addition of these French doors and side lights with the much larger window lights. And I'll explain a little bit more about that, since our project is primarily kind of equal parts restoration, but then also our addition. And so I thought it would be helpful to start off by through kind of the magic of Google Maps. We did a little research, and what you see here on this sheet is aerial photographs taken over time, the first one from 1994, which really does show the original structure as it existed since it was built in 1902. And this structure was built not as a residence, but as a carriage structure for a much larger residence across the street, known as the colonnades. So this was really just an accessory structure. It was a 2-story barn and carriage houses, 1-story carriage house wings, and then 2-story north and south wing to that main central structure here. And what you see and we believe in the 1960s that was converted to residential use from the original carriage house use. In this photograph from 2001, we've highlighted in blue changes to the original structure. And what one sees here is the first garage, 2-story garage that was added, and also in blue, this large 2-story addition. And what that did was it moved the original southern 2-story wing and moved it further south, and it kind of wedged in there a new 2-story addition in 1998. The next photograph in 2004 shows in green 2 more accessory structures that were built, a 1-story house, the 1-story garage rather, and the pool house, both built in the year 2000, along with the pool.
David, just one quick question.
Yes.
On the, when you say they moved the southern part of the original house, did they actually move it, or did they demolish it and build?
They moved it.
They moved it.
Yes, they absolutely moved it. It's interesting looking at the basement because you see the old foundation and this new poured
So
concrete foundation. where they
whatever
lifted and
historic
moved.
components in the structure itself are still in that piece, albeit...
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. I think they probably demoed a lot of the interior to move it, to lighten it up, and then. And this photograph from 2018, we superimposed our proposed changes, and which are highlighted in orange. And so what one sees here is our new pool house. The existing pool house would not meet today's zoning codes. It's over 800 square feet. And so one sees our proposed house and our proposed addition, which consists of a kitchen wing, a 4-car garage, and a gym, and the rear entrance here. And I think it's useful to see it in relation to the existing accessory structures, which are much closer to the north property line. So we're setting it further away from the property line to meet current setback requirements. And yeah, so I think that's pretty clear. If there's no further questions, I'd like to kind of, in greater detail, go over the changes to the elevations. Project. So the other package you received consists of the plans and the elevations. And I'll start with the elevations, which I think kind of more clearly represent the proposed changes, starting with drawing number 11. And so we formatted these with the existing house on top.
What elevation is this, David?
This is the street elevation, which is the west elevation. So it's the elevation that you would see were there no hedges on Captain's Neck. And so the existing, what's existing is on top, and what's proposed is on the bottom, with the actual changes kind of dotted in red. And so one thing that we felt was important is this 1998 addition, which is really the highest point of the house. It kind of detracted from the original kind of 5-bay center hall reading of the original structure. So one thing we're doing is we are proposing to cut that back 20 feet further back from where it currently exists. If I were to,
What do you mean by cut back? You mean
remove
from
the volume?
facade?
That's right. So I think one way to explain this as well is going back to the site photos. In photograph B, one sees this here, which is that 2-story addition. And so the idea is to basically take that addition and cut off 20 feet of it, and push it back, which would expose more of a gable end here.
Can I just for point of correction, you're talking about cutting back on the attic level.
That's right, on the second floor.
Not on the first or the second floor.
That's right. Yeah.
So the second floor wall that rises up that shows those 3 windows in the existing will remain where it is. It'll just have a shed roof stretching down above it.
Right. On these elevations, one really can't see the first floor part of that because of this 1-story wing. But what you're right that what you see here, these 3 windows, are right now coplanar with this 2-story structure. And what you will see in our proposal is to basically take that 2nd-story volume and push it back 20 feet in plan, and then have a shed roof basically negotiate that back plane with the front plane, and really to give primacy to the original house and to reestablish what was in the beginning a very symmetrical elevation. The second thing we're proposing in the front elevation is there's these 2 1-story wings that come out and form a front court here and here. This one has been turned into a garage. It's the 2 garage doors on the side, as I showed in the site photographs. This one is currently a dining room, and you can see that they have different windows. This is double hung windows. These are, I believe, little hopper windows. And so the proposal is to kind of make them more visually symmetrical, and to make them symmetrical in the same way we are treating this first volume that we're setting back, which is to say, like a clear story window and a half-hip roof here, here, and here. Yes.
So those, for some reason, to me, the window style of those two elements seems to come out of nowhere, to me. I see it's on your new proposed pushback.
Yes.
But to me, that just is, I don't know, front and center. I find those more modern.
What is your design
theory?
Yes, I mean, there's several ways I can answer that, and to be totally honest, one is functional, and that this is facing the front auto court, and we definitely did not like the windows at a level where headlights were facing right into the room on a practical level. That explains the location of the windows at a height above 7 feet high. The other reason is from an architectural point of view. This house is, as you can see, kind of a jumble of masses, a jumble of like hip roof masses in plan, and from every view, it's actually very complex in its reading. And so to kind of clarify the reading of the house, our architectural strategy was there are volumes in the plan which run north-south, and there are volumes that run east-west. And when one walks around the house, I think by differentiating the east-west volumes, two of which are these one-story additions. The third one, which is this larger 2.5-story volume running east-west, and giving a slightly different fenestration. One, I think, can read kind of the massing of the house in a clearer way. One thing that we were very mindful of, though, is that we very much wanted to maintain the size of the window lights in anything we did along the street-facing facade to kind of give that consistency of reading. Whereas right now, as you can see in some of the site photos, that kind of the later openings, fenestrations, were treated in a completely different way. They have windowlets that are twice as large.
The design just strikes me as being sort of Queen Anne-ish.
Yeah.
And if anything, this began life as a very elegant colonial revival vision. So just sort of searching for an architectural rationale from an aesthetic.
To me, they're very attention-getting and fancy in a way that the rest of the house. I mean, I actually knew the house when it was the old way.
Oh, was that right before this large addition was added?
Yeah, but I just feel it's so discordant with the rest of it that you seem to maintain pretty well. And suddenly we have these three elements with this, I find, quite busy fenestration elements that don't stack up with me. But I'm willing to be talked out of it. But I find it, especially since it's forward, these are the forward, when you drive in there, there's that's the first thing you get to, right?
Correct, yes. And I think, we have some renderings, so...
I saw the rendering.
So this rendering kind of shows more clearly these three windows that we are speaking of, I think, in a...
So what is it, I'm just curious, the use, because you pointed out, the windows here, the lights. So these are, this is no longer a garage.
That's no longer a garage, and that's going to become a family room, like a family kids playroom, family room. And the one-story wing to the east will remain a dining room. I think there is something, the language of the existing house consists mostly of these double-hung, 6/6 double-hung windows. From my point of view, to have a double-hung window at that height is somewhat impractical, given one would not be able to reach it. and also would be a little jarring in terms of its actual location on that gable end, so high off.
Well, right, I don't think 6/6 sashes would ever be sailing up from the second story there. You know, that's, can we assume that this garage structure to the left was indeed a garage when it was first built, or I mean, I haven't seen these things in detail, but what about those little windows?
I believe that those windows might be original, because it was probably not a garage. But yeah, I mean, in terms of when you look at some of the earlier site plans, the garage as it exists today with that turnaround.
I can show you one. You bring this down a little bit. Just a regular.
Well, it's a bit of a detail. I mean, the overall program is to preserve the massing, the detailing of not only all that, you know, remains, but to kind of modify that later addition, which is kind of assertive. So generally speaking, but these details do kind of appear because they're right there out front.
And they are the first thing you see, and you see them from the street. And they're, I don't know, what is that, a rhomboid? I hate to think.
Rhomboid.
1, 2, 3. It's an odd. For me, that's a problem. What's on the roofing? On these has become shallower. What have we got going on here?
That's like a jerkin head.
That's right. Yes.
What's that called?
A half hip jerkin.
Jerkin head?
Like a pickle.
Yeah, so
It's a jerkin head. It's just a clipped
roof.
Yeah.
But now it has white trim, right? And with the window. I find those to be predominating in a funny way that lessens the actual historic parts. I don't mind the step back addition, the lesser addition that you've created, but I find that the two, what I call like the welcoming first parts of the court when you drive in, to be out of character in a big way with me.
I agree with you.
I don't know, and it's almost like, it's so unnecessary. I feel like it's so unnecessary. Why are we calling attention to the new thing? I mean, I know you're an architect, and I'm sure you don't like to hear that, but to me, it's a disservice to the preserved parts of this building that's, I think, kind of magnificent, really, just in its how it sprawls and the whole. I was told that they had like cows in there or horses from.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
at some point.
honestly, that it was like a stable at one point.
It was a stable, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And the interior walls were taken down, but actually, one of the previous owners said, you know, we can hardly live in here because there were like stalls, but they had this big family house, which was fantastic. So but I find these two.
I'm just wondering if without the flanking elements of you know, window panes, if just the central one, because they're essentially as large as the window up here on the attic story that's been pushed back.
That's right.
And you know, how many cars are actually going to be driving? I mean, this is Captain's Neck Lane near the end.
Yes.
How many cars what car headlights are you talking about?
Probably only cars that are coming into the driveway, right?
That's right.
I mean, that's.
But the garage isn't here. This is the court.
Mm-hmm.
So how many people that actually live there? I mean, I don't find that to be a concern that I would like to entertain, actually.
It's from, my take has changed as I've heard you folks talking, which is one of the nice dynamics that takes place when you have a board, which initially I was okay with that and accept your rationale for doing it. But Zach makes a good point, and now I see what you were saying too. If you took away the two sides on the left and right and made it a single window and had shutters or something like that, I mean, because all the other windows at that level have shutters, it would be more consistent and less eye-popping, as I think what one of you folks said.
I think also the repetition of what's this? kind of roof?
Well, somehow, that,
The
not somehow.
abbreviated,
And this is a little
Yes.
jerkin head
jerkin head, that
variation on it.
calls attention to itself. I don't mind it on the one part that's the addition, but I think for the front two, to introduce the house with this, I think, complicated and somewhat not in character with the rest of the house.
Although, does that...
Roof and fenestration
Does
are
that tend-
problems for me.
Does that tend to the eye to soften the look, or does it...
It does, but you're dealing at first with a hip roof existing, in other words, instead
Right.
of... So how did that happen? If you, okay, here's the existing walls of these projecting, and how does this wall plane then go up?
11?
Oh, it would be reframed, so that wall would
That
go
would
up.
frame
This is
up.
the existing. See?
The roof
See,
would
this
come
seems so much more
out.
pleasing.
That's right.
I see.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Why are we calling attention to the new thing? I mean, I understand why he's
Side
doing it.
elevation.
Yes, I mean, it's easily explained in the next, I believe. Well, that's a rear elevation, so if you go to elevation 13, one sees right exactly the hip turning into 13. Oh, this is the south elevation. It's also shown on the next page, which is the north elevation, since it's there's two of these.
Right, I see how that
So we have actually, do you want a copy of this?
Oh, do you want one of
build
these?
up.
No.
Not necessary.
I see. Build that up and bring the roof forward to
That's right.
overhang. I don't know, I feel the purpose of the board is really to, you know, with any designated structure, is to opt for preserving as much of the original fabric as possible. This later addition that was inserted in here, as it was, as you pointed out, kind of intrudes because the whole roof of it overhangs the original. And so by pushing that back and also eliminating whatever links those two, so you got rid of that too, which is a big improvement. So that's a further modification of a recent addition. But I just feel that bringing that detail down into these is not really...
I think it's more about the new part, the changes. And, I mean, are we preserving this, or are we, I mean, to me, these details make it call out in a way that I find unpleasant and not harmonious, I guess. We haven't even gotten to the
No, that's true. We've got a ways to go.
reactor,
Yes,
whatever that is, that proton accelerator place back
Maybe I
there.
could repeat what I'm hearing. It sounds to me that you know, that there's value placed on the original hip roofs.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's a very distinctive element that's repeated, large,
Over and
small,
over. Yeah.
medium, but in a very beautiful way. And even this new addition tried to capture that. But I think you're right to push that back. And the use of that multi-pane, the wonderful Presbyterian Church in Bridgehampton did that when they enlarged with a communal hall in the 1890s, and they built a large room, and then they lit that, this 1890s, late Queen Anne, with multi-pane little square lights, a whole wall of windows. And this almost has like a gymnasium or auditorium or something feel to it with that, the big room, with the light coming in, rather than having a conventional window there. So that makes sense up there. But I don't think that window type translates, you know, down here. That's, you know, where you have those original elements.
Okay.
Okay, enough on the windows.
I think the three of us, obviously, on a project this big, we'd like to have a full board, probably.
No, but I think
we need, we're having an objection.
we're a quorum, and...
Yeah, it's not happening.
And whether we had a full board or not, the three people here, I think, are
enough to
unified
tell you.
in their concern that Zach has expressed very well. Okay, love the thinking that went into the reformatting and balancing off the entire structure by doing the setback. We're okay, as Zach points out, with the window on the second floor, the larger one, but the fenestration on the two courtyard extensions is problematic.
And the roof.
So, floorboard or not, that's...
Right, that's 3. Okay.
I'll just mention a couple of other small things, or maybe not small to you, but we are adding a fireplace on the interior. And so there is a proposal for a new brick chimney of matching brick to the existing brick chimneys of the house here. And we are, removing the existing, proposing to remove the existing accessory structures, which you see in the side elevation here. And what one sees is admittedly the geometry is weird, this is such a foreshortened view, but it's the proposed new addition. And I think this is useful. You'll see a better view of it later on, but it's useful to see kind of the relationship of the rear yard addition relative to the one that's being removed. The next sheet 12 is of the rear elevation, existing and proposed, and that is from the east. Here, the proposal is to, one thing that we're doing or proposing is there's a rather large roof terrace, not original to the house, which was which is here, and you see these columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, that support this large roof deck, and the proposal is to remove it completely and to create kind of a rear court similar to that front court. There is also a proposal one can see on the lower elevation. We believe that these are the original windows here. They depart from the 6/6 double hungs, but they're 12 over single pane. And they, in 1998, they kind of added this French door with side lights. Whoops. And so we're proposing to kind of replicate these 3 windows to make them symmetrical.
Nice.
And similarly, there are these newer windows on the second floor, which have the 3/1, but they're larger lights and not original. And we're proposing to kind of match the front-facing windows on that second floor as well. So in that center bay, that's the proposal. This is that 1998 addition, 2-story addition, kind of in the rear, and this in plan is kind of sticks out into the rear yard in a similar way that those 1-story wings stuck out in the front. And the change here is on the first floor, there is a large kind of central protruding bay that was built in 1998, and the proposal is to just kind of add another pair of French doors in the center, replacing that bay. On the second floor, there are 3 French doors off the master bedroom, and the proposal is to turn that into one large kind of glass opening with a central picture light, and then maintaining the 2 doors on either side.
Can you speak up a little, please?
Yes, sorry. And to the, let me make my orientation right. This is the south wing. There's an existing door that leads out onto a terrace. But since we're kind of cutting back that terrace, we're proposing to change that door into a matching window. Here. And one again sees kind of from the rear, the kitchen addition here, which would form kind of that rear court in plan. And also...
Which kind of looks like a greenhouse from a distance.
That's exactly right.
Is it all glass with what? What is...
That's all glazed.
That's right.
And what's the part that's... And there's like a...
That's brick, right?
It's a brick outdoor cooking, indoor, outdoor? What is that?
It's brick, but it actually houses the range on the interior of the kitchen. So that addition was designed to appear like a greenhouse structure addition, and the one solid element is this brick mass of the same brick as the existing brick fireplaces, and also with these same kind of recessed panels that exist on this main chimney. And it would basically be an enclosure for the cooking range on the interior. took a little preview of sheet number 13, which is the south elevation. So I would highlight, again, like the existing condition of the newer French doors, to replace them with French doors and side lights with glass lights which match the size of the older original house. Similarly, on the next sheet, one sees the controversial Gherkin roof, which we will reconsider, and this elevation shows the current condition of the two modern garage doors, the side entry door and the little window, and to kind of convert all of that to the matching French door with side lights. Here. And here one sees we're outside of the main structure and kind of along the northern end, the proposal for the accessory wing, as we're calling it. And it's actually, I think, easier to see on the next page. Those are two elevations of the same accessory wing. The sheet number 16, which is viewed from the south, from the lawn, shows the pool house structure way to the east, and there's basically a 4-bay garage and a gym, and a kind of an outdoor kitchen cooking area, which is comprised in this larger volume right here.
And the natural cork?
Yes, I will talk about that. Let me open up the rendering of this as well. I mean, there's a few things that I should know about the design thinking behind this wing. One is, we were in kind of thinking and designing this project and doing a little historical research. We were inspired somewhat by the main house across the street, which was called the Colonnades. And I believe it was named the Colonnades because it had this massive colonnade in the rear yard. There's some photos which... So these are some historic photos of that, of the colonnade, which consisted of, these very large columns and a kind of a lattice-like structure, roof structure. And so the proposed elevation for this wing is really to have kind of these large square columns made out of cedar and a very kind of lattice-like thin roof canopy, one. And then two is to, even though there are functional spaces beneath this canopy, such as garage and gym, to not have any solid walls reach the canopy level. And so what one sees here is these solid walls, and there's always a kind of a transom or clear story light above them, kind of always kind of preserving kind of the reading of this canopy that kind of flows through that space. And so what one sees is, again, the pool house. There's kind of an outdoor area here. This one bay is the kitchen, the cooking area. These next two bays are the gym. The next 4 bays are the garage. And this final bay is the mudroom for the rear entry. And I actually brought a sample of the cork. There are also photographs of the materials. And so, happy to hand this.
Well, I'll just look at it.
Okay.
It's okay.
So one thing that I hope isn't confusing is natural cork. I know that it's not a very conventional material out there, but like wood, starts off a darker color. But as it weathers, it turns to kind of a silvery, very similar to the way cedar would react. And so what this rendering shows, I think, shows kind of the immediate, what this would look like once it was built. But over time, I think the expectation is that the color palette would be more like cedar and weathered cork.
So this is sort of a cork product of pieces that are...
It's a very interesting, for us, a very interesting process. It's basically they take a lot of cork granules.
Right, stick them back together again.
They don't even stick them back together. They cook them.
Oh, they cook them.
And then the natural resins in the cork bind them together. It has an extremely high insulation value.
Yeah.
It's extremely resistant to...
That part I like. Except it's pretty open, isn't it? Or am I crazy?
The material as it is applied would be over 2 inches thick.
Okay. You know, you're, just in general, sort of, this wasn't a very grand, I mean, we're over here in the carriage house with the cows and the horses, so I find the sort of
Well, I agree with you 100%. Like, we did not
this
want...
doesn't not really have a lot to do with over here.
No, it's more the generating idea as opposed to, we are not trying to pretend like what we're doing now is...
Right, I understand that, but even the notion that, because this is so grand, this place. I mean, with the capital G, just everything.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Every expensive material, windows, you name it, you got it. And the gardens, it's just fantastic. But anyway, but across the street, where we're located now, is where they kept, I don't know what, their pigs and their horses and their carriages and their cars, I believe, probably.
Yeah, absolutely right.
So I don't know. So I'm not going to go there with that kind of thematic. And this is such an iconic plastic addition, I realize it is not meant to have anything to do with the historic part. I get it. But I am having, and I think it's quite handsome on its own. I don't love the cork, because I feel like suddenly we're introducing something that is nowhere existing. What do you have?
Well, the one thing I was going to say is that, the one thing I've learned after doing this for many years now with this board is that it's behind, it's subservient, but also the maximum height on it is 12 feet. So it's not even going to be higher than the...
But, Taylor Creek is a public, we're not, people can see that.
People on the water.
Well, it's also an almost 7-acre property.
Right, but
that's set over.
But we are, I know you can't see that from Captain's Neck Lane, but you can see it from across, from the water and from across. That's all.
Actually, with all the vegetation, it's a very limited window shed, actually, you can see over here.
It's really...
And remember, and this portion is going to be part of the house, then you're going to have the open...
Right,
clear storage. So that's the clear. This is all clear. This is all clear through.
Where's
it's a
the
pergola.
clear?
This is a pergola right here.
Yeah, and then
you have the pool house, which is right here.
Which is cork.
So the cork is only this portion.
It's only the
garage.
Shaded.
That's why I was trying to understand the garage, the gym, and the
material of the pool house?
This is actually we're calling it's a screen. It's a screen porch.
So it's completely open?
Completely open. We thought it wasn't an accessory structure until the village told us that it was.
So you have the
calling
screened area in the front, and then the pool house, which has for the walls of the pool house.
At the walls of the pool house is just screen in between these cedar columns.
I'm liking it better.
That's right.
No, it sometimes just needs to explain.
I'm sorry, yes, I don't think I explained that
It's okay.
as well as Melissa just did.
I can see now that it's a little hard to tell what that is, that it's screened.
And again, I think when it weathers and becomes silvery, it's going to mimic weathered cedar.
It's a challenge.
No kidding.
But and I don't think anyone wants to say, well, just in as much as you're taking down the existing pool house and accessory structures, which were added later, so too, in 50 years, your beautifully designed creation might again be subject to reconsideration. But the point is, what impact, aside from the visual, is it truly having on the existing historic house? And the answer to that is very little. So it's very removable, which is, it doesn't go to the aesthetics of it, but it certainly goes to the future preservation issues, because you're not taking you're not substantially modifying the existing building to create that.
Absolutely.
And it's quite separate and distinct.
But that's true of the
So-
outbuildings they're getting rid of, too. They were just added on.
And they, right.
And they
So-
didn't need a pool house for the place where they kept the horses, let's face it. So are we ever going to get to the part where the historic part?
The historic part. Yes, I thought, I started with the historic part.
Yeah, I mean, the actual, like, long, just the timeline, because so it was, okay, go ahead. Finish. I'd like to hear.
Might I suggest that, he's going to have to repeat this all over again at the next meeting?
Yeah, okay, so let's
Which do
just
you
go to
really
the
wanna
next.
get into this now?
Okay, fine. Can we get into the historic?
I don't know why, because he's going to have to repeat it for the other members at the next meeting, unless you want to hear it twice, or he wants to repeat himself.
I'd like to hear Mr. Snodgrass
Oh, I see.
and
Not even
Zach,
me.
just in a very brief way, give us, because I can't think about it properly without knowing. We don't need a dissertation.
Gotcha.
We need some dates. Okay,
Gotcha.
thank
Yeah,
you.
Well, let me just, if I could just make a comment, because it may bridge some of this. Yes, this, you can imagine Gary Cooper walking through, and for all I know, he probably did. If you were to carry this design, and I recognize it as an inspiration, God knows Jackson Pollock had inspirations that did not look like anything when it came out on the canvas. But obviously, if you replicated this, then you'd have Zach nodding his head in 100% agreement that that's great. At the same time, I could also see and appreciate, given the inspiration, or just without the inspiration, the end product, that this is a significant departure that is essentially subservient to the core of the house, which we'll get into the history a little bit now and more so maybe at the next meeting. But I can see the departure to add a modern or contemporary type structure without perhaps diminishing, and that's a question mark, the historic nature.
Good evening. Joel Snodgrass, Stewart Preservation Services, Huntington, New York. I'll try to be brief. Obviously, a lot of items were already discussed with feedback. And the thing I will say as an overview before I say anything is that in working with David, there's been nothing but cooperation in terms of understanding that things may get comments that require change, and they've been totally amenable to. We'll find the right solution based on everybody's comments. The background, obviously you know the building before any of the current changes. George Washington Curtis was the owner, was the person behind this building taking place at the turn of the century, roughly 1905. It's listed at slightly different times in different publications, which all seem to be coming from SPLIA's 1979 blue form inventory that was done. But in town records, there's some extrapolation where it's 1902 up to 1908 and so on. In any case, he was an industrialist. He was a member of the board of directors for Southampton Hospital. He was obviously a prominent New Yorker. His wife and himself were on the social register, so there's prominence in terms of his connection to the building. The site for the carriage house and barn was owned by the Hildreth family, so there's more connection to local historical importance. The two properties were developed at different times, but only about a 3-year difference between. The barn and carriage house were, in theory, from what we understand, were converted about 1964. And the first renovations, taking it from agrarian and utilitarian, was about 1965. There's notes again in the 70s, and then as you saw through the late 1990s and 2000s, substantial change. But as a result, as you already questioned this, my understanding actually going through the building is that some of those spaces were stables. Actually, it's probably stable on the left, which you have the ventilator windows, which are really way up high, and so they were purely for moving of the air, probably with low usage. And of course, the interior's been completely changed. But there are some of these surviving. The south side, south appendage, appears to have been a tack room. And so there's still some of the harness hangers and things like that, which actually it's fascinating that they say this. The interior of the building is really fascinating in that it's an open truss support structure that's basically suspended from the roof down, holding up the upper floors. And so it allows this amazing ability to do various things with the building, but the infrastructure of the support system is still very much prominent and is going to be retained throughout the building. So the thing that I found interesting, and I was trying to pull up some of the sales notes from 1930, 1977, and then, of course, the 1979 spleniform. This is of the main house, the colonnades, and then this is of the carriage house, is that, as was noted, this is a very, very formal colonial revival form, very formal gardens. And actually, if you look at some of these photos that you have of the colonnades, you'll see in particular in this one, that it really skirted the entire property over to Hetty Creek, coming back up. And then if there's one other shot where you can see the house, how far back it is in the background relative to where the colonnades are, hence the name. What's interesting is it's not clear whether or not it was always called the colonnades, and there's some reference to unknown name in the beginning, but then later on, literally later on, referred to as the colonnades. So it's not clear whether or not that was a change from its original construction, but clearly it was a prominent feature emphasized. And that was, as David was pointing out, that was tried to look at as, are there design precedents that should be referenced or thought about in terms of some transfer in a different way, but noting some homage to the past, if you will. So the thing that, to me, that, oh, by the way, Hicks Nursery, which of course out of Jericho, very prominent, was responsible for the landscaping at that time. So it was a very formalized garden, but these two parcels were bought at different times, developed at different times, although within close proximity of timing. So the thing that I noted that was interesting about this is the plan is so formal as an ABA. I'll try not to knock that microphone off. As an ABA plan was changed so early on. So you had both complete symmetry and projections, and through the introduction of the 1998 edition, it was this complete and total departure from the way that the building was presented and its historic outlay, which, as has already been talked about, I think the success of what's being proposed right now is to soften this thing by reducing it, because in the current arrangement, there we go, and I think this is important to note. What stood out for me, sorry, forgive me, I'm trying to go upside down and backwards here. One more. Okay, the thing that really notes here, and although it's been noted that this is prominent, the thing that you see here is that the addition roof actually overlaps the main roof. It literally overlaps it, and as a result, it seems to be the forward element, and it's in competition. Again, with the connector roof, it really is out of balance, it's in competition, it's sort of fighting. And so the idea of moving this thing back more than anything else, cutting it back and trying to find a way of softening it and transitioning it down, to me was the first note of real success of trying to find a way to soften this. If you go to, I have had the ability to go see the site, and when you walk in, immediately this jumps out at you as a problem. And it's sort of a quandary, is how can you do this with a pre-existing building of that size? So that was really being looked at as a way of trying to soften this. But the other thing I wanted to emphasize in those plans on this first sheet is the degree of alteration over time with previous review, and I have to assume previous approval, it is quite substantial. And so it's sort of a case of how do we deal with this? Jeff, to go back to your comment before, it does look as though they picked up the appendage, shoved it south. There is still vestiges of the old foundation, the old framing system that are still left in place, and then you have new concrete walls and so on. And so there is continuity that's carried throughout. It's formalized, it's been dressed up, gussied up, if you will, but it's still there. So it's a case of how do we deal with this in a way that softens it, and with an element that large on the 1998 edition, cutting the roof back seemed to be the appropriate way of dealing with it. So again, 1902 to 1908 for the carriage house, converted to residence in 1964, changed again in the 70s, and then as you see, these from 1994 till roughly 2004 and on. It's been listed as retaining its structural integrity. 3 of the 5 criteria for the village have been noted as being yes. So, the basis of what to do with this, the emphasis was treat the front facade as minimally as possible. And David was clear to say, we're going to look at this and see if this is a possibility, and we understand that things need to be changed. We'll go back and we'll find ways of successfully treating those. The thing that I had tried to find from the very beginning was as if there were any other visual references to the carriage house. And unfortunately, there's really nothing out there. All of the visuals you see mostly are of the colonnades and the gardens and some of the interiors and that type of thing of the main house, but really nothing of the carriage house on its own. The thing I wanted to note, or some of the other changes that you don't necessarily see here, things such as the driveway design and location, some is noticeable. The symmetry we talked about, the large addition, detached garages, the in-ground pool house. But the windows and doors have been, aside from a few of those that we see are remaining, have been substantially changed throughout the building, really all over the place. Most of the door openings in the building are now these monster French doors, very heavy insulated glass French doors. In terms of the emphasis on changes, we had tried to, we'd had discussions about how do we minimize impact, what would be appropriate, how do we look at things. Setbacks, alterations, softening those things by trying to do clipped such as at the roof, dealing with the removal of the connector on the upper roof area. The lower flanking roof slopes, I think the thought on that more than anything else was trying to find a way to tie in something that would speak. Obviously not as successful as, that's clearly what's coming back, but it was trying to find a way to not have the changes on that roof be a standalone that stood out by itself, but try to find some way of finding a way to tie in across the facade. There's minor repositioning of a few windows on the first floor front entry, but the retention of the front entry door and its entryway is going to be retained intact, and that's pretty much survives from the original. The courtyard entry walls on the front are being retained, and as you saw, a chimney was going in. On the back, you've seen what's there, but it's really a case of trying to look at the exterior in terms of treating the front area as minimally as possible. And, I'm not going to make any comments about the addition in the back because that's not really anything connected to the historic aspect other than the reference, I'll put it that way, the reference to a colonnaded exterior with vertical and horizontal prominent elements.
Okay. Good.
I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You got anything to say, Zach? Now? I mean, you're going to have to say it again.
Okay,
But do you have anything to add? Let's put it that way.
No, I don't think tonight. I think
Okay, so we got the front part, the first two one-story elements.
I can understand the approach to this and the rationale that Joel just brought up for modifying those lower roof slopes to make that upper change more integrated to the final product.
Yeah, it's too bad that you can't just take out what that addition was and jam it back together again.
But I don't necessarily agree that that's necessary.
Then we'd really have a historic something.
I think modifying that large addition in the middle, as they've done, is a successful treatment of that. And I think that can be unique unto it and stand as its own without further modifying anything else to make it make more sense. I don't
Right.
follow that argument.
I agree with you. Okay.
So I think it's overall very successful. How much of a long, narrow, very modern, very elegant-looking garage, gym, pool house thing, works. All I can say is that it's very tight to the front facade. It goes back at a very tight angle, and you don't see very much of it.
Right.
And this is a house, the property is very well screened, and it's not obtrusive in that sense. I don't know that it would be any better if it were all hip roofs, for example.
No.
It would still be a long, one-story addition. So I don't see that it could be more harmonious architecturally by mimicking all this 6/6
No,
windows.
I agree with you, but
So
we'll see.
in that sense, I think it's fine.
Okay. I think that's it. So are you asking to, is there any public comment? Oh, you're just
Everyone's
here to
tired.
be fun?
They're all tired.
Do you want to come back, or you need more time than 2 weeks?
Just because we have two other board members who are here, we'd like to hear everybody's comments.
Sure.
Okay.
Also, I don't know if Zach's going to be doing a report or not.
Does he really have, I honestly
No,
think...
that's my question.
That was my original question, because it's been so, in a sense, between the windows and the additions, I had some questions about whether or not it was even historic. And I'm glad that your people are not thinking that it's not.
Oh, no, we can't.
But
We're very-
I'm not sure, do you need to, no?
I don't know if I need to do it yet. I'm just thinking after we have a full board, if there's some articulating of what the feelings are, there might be an opportunity then.
So may I ask this question? Is your intent to come back to the next meeting with exactly the same design, just for the benefit of getting these two?
Well, I mean, as Joel mentioned, we really do want to do the right thing here and get your view on this. And what I've heard is that the treatment of the two one-story wings you find the most.
Right. And what I'm saying is...
And it's really not up to me. It's a conversation I have with my client, obviously.
Because...
I would strongly, recommend that we relook.
Right. Based on what I've heard. The dynamics of the board are you need 3 affirmative votes. Right now, the 3 people here have said the same thing about the Jahunga, whatever the hell they're called, roofs, the jerkin.
It's like a gherkin, except it's a jerkin.
The jerkin roofs, the fenestration over the 2 ends.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would behoove you to come back with the exact same thing, because I know nothing that anybody else said will convince me to change my view. I don't know about how strong
I think
my...
in 2 weeks, we could probably have some options for you. Yes.
Okay.
We want to move forward.
That's absolutely right.
And what I might suggest, and I don't know to what extent we can do this as a board, but I would encourage the other 2 members
to watch the
videos
That's why they have
so
it.
that Joel doesn't have to repeat himself. It's 9 o'clock. I'd like to go home and have a drink, and I don't want to spend another 2 hours here, or another hour discussing this case to simply repeat it.
Well, how about the next time we don't really, if they can watch, I will tell them.
My question then is if Zach and the board feel comfortable enough that we don't need a report, that you feel comfortable that we are adhering to the historical significance, then I just don't want to get that we all like it and then we have to have Zach to report. But that doesn't necessarily have to happen in this case. That's what I'm just trying to gather.
I'm taking direction from Susan. There isn't that much controversial.
Okay.
I think you've honored pretty much of the historic part and been pretty careful. Do you agree?
Yes.
And that being said, Joel probably should come back.
Between the windows, the doors, and the additions,
We love seeing you.
it's, you can see that it's not the quote preservation angle. I think you have tried, with the exception of the first 2 things that you meet when you come in the driveway.
No, and I think we've heard you, and I think we'll be able to.
Okay,
we'll
so
bring
maybe it would be better and more successful for everyone concerned if you came up with, talk to your client and see what you can do and see how we can move forward from there. Does that seem reasonable?
I think we'd like to be adjourned to 2 weeks, though. I think.
Okay.
Yes. She's very excited, and if we talk to her this week, we can have something.
Okay, if that needs to change, send us a letter, please.
Pardon? I don't know what the look on your face is, being simply because you're tired or because there's something we're missing.
No.
Do you think that's agreeable? Okay. So?
I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to the next meeting the application of
we approve the applicant's request to adjourn till the next meeting.
Right.
I told them I figured out how to say
Second.
it. Chicken Mapaugi.
Papagia.
Keep it till 7, hang on.
It could be Paugi.
Allergies.
Yeah,
She
I
said
second it.
second.
I second.
On vote?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Christina? Chair. Thank you very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Good luck.
Exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Now where are we at the end?
You are done.
Discussion about Veterans Day?
No, it's not even on our calendar.
You would agree to cancel that meeting.
I questioned the village, and they told me it was already canceled. It's not on the official calendar.
You adjourn it to the next day or so, but
Oh, I see.
I think you agreed to just do away with that first
Okay,
meeting in
are
October
you ready for
altogether.
that?
Well, this is October. Now it's apparently Veterans Day
Can we
as well.
wait until the next meeting to find out from the other people? Don't you think that makes more sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, let's,
I'm not putting anything about that in there.
I would say that we're agreeing to discuss it the next time. Discussion topic for
The next.
August 23rd, what, 24th?
I don't know, full board to discuss.
24th. I'm sorry, no. 27.
27th.
27.
It'll be that,
27th?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, folks.
Yes, could we add that we, with a fuller board? Yeah, it just seems like, okay, why are we making rule, it could just be a disaster. Okay, is that it?
Okay, do you want a motion to close the meeting?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to make a motion that we close this meeting of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation on August 13th, 2018.
I second that.
On vote, Jeff?
Aye.
Christina, aye, and the chair votes aye. Thank you all very much.